All right, guys, let's talk NBA salary cap. Now, we know math is a very, very difficult subject, so I've crunched the numbers for you guys, and we've put together the projected salary cap space for every NBA team. We'll go through here once, briefly mention each team, then we'll come back and take a deeper dive at some particular teams, most of them really, and break down where some changes you could see on other sites. So the Hawks, of course, I'm rounding here, by the way, because you don't need to see 6 more digits. That's just not something you guys need. Hawks at 13.7, Boston at 34.1, Brooklyn 67.9, so that's 2 max contracts. Charlotte 7.8, that's if they don't retain Kemba Walker, by the way. The Bulls at 21.6, fresh off the Omar Sheik contract being taken off the books. The Cleveland Cavaliers, negative 24.6 million. Dallas at 37.5. We'll break down how they get to that number, by the way. Denver minus 12.1, Detroit minus 15, and Golden State minus 15.4. The Houston Rockets minus 17.1, Indiana 33.2, the LA Clippers 56.4, the Lakers 23.7. Yes, we'll spend more time on them as well. Memphis 10.3. The Miami Heat, they're next up at minus 35.1. The Milwaukee Bucks, 17.2. Minnesota, minus 7.7, so they're already over the cap there. The Pelicans, 31.2. The New York Knicks with the ultimate nice number, 69.6. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 49.1. The Orlando Magic, 17.7. The 76ers, 58.9. The Suns at just over 21.4. The Trailblazers, negative 22.3. The Sacramento Kings with all kinds of money, 62.6. The Spurs, 4.3. The Raptors, negative 5.9. We'll break down why that number really, in the end, doesn't actually matter for them. Utah, 17.5. And finally, the Wizards, for now, at 7.7. So the Hawks, pretty straightforward there, 13.7. Remember, we're basing this on the practical cap space, which is pretty much if you renounce all of your free agents. So it's close to the max amount, but it's not always the true max amount. We'll break down where some examples lie. Boston 34.1. That figure is if they renounce and or lose Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, Marcus Morris, and Terry Rozier. So this really is the max amount for Boston. Now, Kyrie and Al Horford, those guys seem like they're gone. Marcus Morris, whatever. Terry Rozier, RFA, so they can go over the cap to sign up, but they still have to keep their cap hold. So in reality, if Boston wants a Kemba Walker type there, going to have to renounce all of those players. The Brooklyn Nets, they're up there with 67.9. That also includes renouncing D'Angelo Russell's cap hold. Now, if they do that, they can afford 2 more max contracts. That's a big deal for Brooklyn there to bring in maybe Kyrie Irving and maybe Kevin Durant. Now, remember, they can also waive Shabazz Napier to free up a little bit more money, but if you're under 12, you do have a roster charge of just under $1 million, so that is factored in here to these various numbers. Of course, when we're rounding, those can often kind of disappear and end up just rounding upwards or downwards. So, folks, with the Brooklyn Nets set to have 2 max contract spots and, frankly, a pretty damn good roster, who will they sign in free agency? Kyrie Irving has long been linked to them as of late. Could Kevin Durant also be an option there? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. The Charlotte Hornets, they're in an interesting spot. If they renounce Kemba Walker, it does get them under the cap limit at $7.8 million. But if they keep Kemba's cap hold, it's really at about negative 12, maybe negative 10 if they waive guys like Willie Hernan-Gomez, Dwayne Bacon, and Devontae Graham. But even if they renounce Kemba, they're not going to find a Kemba quality player for that $7 million that's left over because they're paying ridiculous contracts like Nick Batum, averaging 26.4 over the next 2 years. Bismack Biyombo makes 17. Marvin Williams makes 15. Cody Zeller at about 15 too, and MKG at 13. So Hornets kind of in a weird spot. It is 7.8 if they lose Kemba Walker, although maybe that happens, maybe that doesn't end up happening. Now we have the Chicago Bulls, 21.6. As I mentioned, Omar Sheik's contract just taken off the books. That gives them an extra $3 million. Now, you'll see some out there say $23 million for Chicago. They can reach that figure. It does require them to waive Shaquille Harrison and Walter Lemon Jr. That gets them to about that, $23 million price tag there. Maybe a little bit under. It is some rounding involved there. So we're not going to do it for every single team in terms of waiving non-guaranteed deals. We'll just make note of the general range. But the practical guaranteed for Chicago comes in at about 21.6. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they ain't got no money. Negative 24.6, all kinds of bad contracts on their books right now, including J.R. Smith, who has a massive $15.68 million cap hit. Now, we didn't include the waiving in that number there for the Cavs, but if they waive him, they only owe him $3.87. That saves them quite a bit of money. However, and then correctly so, the Cavs are still trying to trade J.R. Smith and then take back some more bad money in exchange for maybe a first-round pick or two. All right, the Dallas Mavericks, 37.5 is the number we'll use here. You'll see other ones out there. For example, their true practical amount is really closer to $47 million, but that doesn't include Kristaps Porzingis' cap hold, and they're going to re-sign him, so we included that. And now if they don't renounce Kristaps, it drops down to 29.8. So how do we get to 37.5? Well, that's by stretching and waiving Courtney Lee, which maybe they do find a trade taker for him. I'm not sure they're actually going to be able to. The Mavs want to find a cap-friendly trade. I also want $1 million right now. Doesn't mean it's actually going to end up happening there. So if you include the stretch and waive for Courtney Lee, it saves about $7.6 million. That leaves the Mavericks with just over $37 million total to go sign maybe Kemba Walker, maybe Al Horford, maybe some combination of other players out there. The Denver Nuggets will put them at minus 12.1, but it really depends what happens with Paul Millsap. They have a $30 million team option on Millsap. If they decline it, it saves them about and creates about $18 million in cap space. Of course, they'd save that $30+ million team option there. So the question becomes for Denver, can you find a Paul Millsap replacement for about $18 million per year? If the answer is yes, well, then you decline the team option. If the answer is no, and I think it is no, you just choose to keep him instead. All right, folks, if you like NBA free agency, we have you covered. We'll be live multiple times, of course, when free agency opens as well. So make sure you're subscribed to us here, youtube.com/chatsportstv. That's the link, but you're watching on YouTube right now, so just hit the big button and subscribe here. We'll keep you updated all offseason long around the NBA, and of course, we do NFL stuff as well. The Detroit Pistons, they're up next, negative $15 million. They could dump Glenn Robinson's deal if they want, but that doesn't really move the needle store over the cap, so we'll leave them at 15 for now. The Golden State Warriors, minus 15.4. I am factoring in the keeping Klay Thompson there. That's why it's over the cap there. If they want to renounce everybody, which means Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, DeMarcus Cousins, Kevon Looney, Jordan Bell, Quinn Cook, all of those, they only have about $13 million in cap space. But that means they lose Klay Thompson, which they're not going to do. So we'll keep them at the over the cap figure there. Golden State doesn't have the money to go out and sign a big name free agent, so don't get your hopes up for anyone that's not a mid-level or a veteran minimum player. Kevin Durant, of course, did just opt out from his deal. So what team will he play for next year? Re-sign with Golden State is still an option. Maybe he goes to the Nets. Maybe he goes to the Knicks, the Clippers, Lakers. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Houston Rockets, they're up next here, negative 17. Nene has a player option. Doesn't really matter in terms of actually getting them under the cap there. It's only $3 million. If they want Jimmy Butler, they have to make a trade or two. All right, the Indiana Pacers, $33.2 million. That does include renouncing all of their cap holds, guys like Thad Young, Corey Joseph, Bojan Bogdanovic, but does get them, especially if they waive Edmund Sumner too, to a max contract. The Clippers have 56.4. There are some somewhat notable roster holds there, but we'll include the practical cap space figure there. If they can trade Danilo Gallinari, it actually makes 2 max contracts. And then, of course, the LA Lakers, for now, $23.7 million. Now, that does include, by the way, Anthony Davis taking his trade kicker. I kind of think he's going to right now. It does include also waiving Jamero Jones, which does save a little bit of money there, but you still have to pay Mo Wagner, Kyle Kuzma, and Isaac Bonga. Now, if you can trade those guys, you get up, not Kuzma. If you trade Wagner and Bonga, it gets you to 27.15. And if you can convince Anthony Davis to waive his trade kicker, well then, now you're in the range of an actual max contract. Now, I actually don't know if that's the correct decision for the Lakers. I think it might make more sense to go out and sign a bunch of role players. Go out and sign some shooters like Kyle Korver if he gets waived by Memphis. Go out and sign players, for example, like Danny Green, if he wants to take a little bit less money. Go and get a point guard. Re-sign Reggie Bullock as well. I think that makes a lot more sense to the Lakers. Let me know what you guys think. Type M for a max player or R if you think it should be just role players. All right, the Memphis Grizzlies, I'll list them at 10.3. There's a lot of different numbers you can end up with here because they can waive Avery Bradley and save almost $10 million. They can waive Kyle Korver and save $4 million. But they also want to re-sign Jonas Valanciunas, and that's not factored into the $10 million figure there because that is if they ignore the cap hold there. So we'll stick with the practical number there of about $10 million. Either way, Memphis isn't going to be overly active in free agency. Speaking of not likely to be active in free agency, the Miami Heat. Apparently they want to visit with Jimmy Butler. Good luck. They got negative $35 million because they got all kinds of terrible contracts out there. Hassan Whiteside opted in his player option for $27 million. Brutal. Ryan Anderson, $21 million. Brutal. Goran Dragic, that one's actually kind of okay, I guess, there. James Johnson, brutal. Justice Winslow, brutal. Miami's in a pretty bad space from a contract perspective. All right, the Miami Bucks are next up here, or Milwaukee Bucks, excuse me. I misread that one. That's brutal. Speaking of brutal. $17.2 million. Put a giant asterisk there. That's if they renounce all of their cap holds, which they're really not going to end up doing because they want to retain Chris Middleton. They want to retain Malcolm Brogdon. They want to retain Brook Lopez. I thought about going the Warriors route and including the money for Chris Middleton, but they could pretty much balance it out by waiving George Hill and his $1 million guaranteed contract versus his $18 million cap hit. So I just stuck with the practical money there just to make it easier and simplistic. But in the end, for Milwaukee, it's all about retaining their own guys. Speaking of their own guys, will Malcolm Brogdon stay with the Bucks? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Money does get a little bit tight for Milwaukee. They save some by trading away Tony Snell, but Middleton's going to get probably a max contract there. What if a team, maybe the Pacers, someone like that, the Kings even, probably maybe not the Kings, but the Pacers I think makes sense, offer Brogdon a max deal? Gets a little bit dicey for Milwaukee. All right, Minnesota has been linked to D'Angelo Russell, but they have no money. They're over the cap. They can't save any unless they trade players at negative 7.7. The Pelicans here, 31.2. Now they can get to a true max if they want by dumping some guys like Christian Wood, Kenrick Williams, and Darius Bertans, but I'll put the practical number there for now. That also includes renouncing the holds involved with Julius Randle. All right, the New York Knicks, 69.6. Right now, it's only just above 60, but that does not include dumping players like Lance Thomas. That's going to happen in New York. John Jenkins, Henry Ellison, DeMay Dotson as well gets you up above 69, enough for 2 max contracts. The question is for New York, will they actually get to use that cap space? Who will the Knicks sign in free agency? Let us know in the comments section. I don't feel that great anymore about Durant going to New York. I worry about Brooklyn, but I think they could get Julius Randle, and frankly, I think that'd be a pretty good fit in New York. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. All right, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're $41.9 million over. Frankly, they're trying to clear about $16.5 just to get under the luxury tax for this coming season. The Magic, $17.7. Again, it really depends on if they want to bring back Vucevic. If they do, cool, that works out. Otherwise, I don't really know where they go from there. All right, the 76ers, if they renounce everybody, can have just under $59 million. But make no mistake about it, they want to re-sign Jimmy Butler. They want to re-sign Tobias Harris, and if they can, re-sign J.J. Redick there. I think for Philadelphia, the number is a lot there, but you don't want to lose all of these players. So for Philadelphia, yes, you can go out and add someone like a Julius Randle or a D'Angelo Russell if you lose Butler and Harris, but you're probably better off keeping those players. All right, the Suns, pretty simple there, 21.4. Really no other moves they can make. Maybe save a couple $100,000 here or there, but they're pretty much at that number. The Trailblazers, negative 22.3. They're not going to be able to free up enough to get under the cap there. The Sacramento Kings, though, have lots of money to spend. The Kings at $62.6 million in cap space there. Now, right now, it's really at 59 for the Kings, but they got plenty of money to spend here. Shout out all of our Kings fans watching, by the way. They can dump the contracts of Frank Mason, B.J. Johnson, Yogi Ferrell, even factoring in the empty roster charges. Still plenty of money for the Kings to re-sign Harrison Barnes. And by the way, my theory as to who the mystery Al Horford suitor is, I think it's Sacramento. I think that'd be a good fit for both parties there. All right, the Spurs, 4.3. That's pretty much set in stone there. Toronto, by the way, negative 5.9. Again, much like Milwaukee, that figure almost doesn't matter because Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, Marc Gasol, and what they want to do with McCall and Lynn, they just want to re-sign those guys, and they can go over the cap to do that. So the figure in the end doesn't really matter for Toronto. It's about, hey, can we make sure we sign Kawhi Leonard? Because if not, I feel pretty bad for Toronto. Maybe not too bad because they did just win the NBA championship after all, and that counts for something. So what will Kawhi do in free agency? Type S for stay, type G for go. I think he stays. Sorry, Clippers, Nets, Knicks, Lakers fans. It's tough to leave a place that you literally just won NBA Finals MVP. All right, the Utah Jazz, 17.5. This one, again, kind of fits in that Denver category of, well, what do they do with Derrick Favors? He has a non-guaranteed $16.9 million deal. Factoring that in, they're just at the cap line with about $200K in extra money there. They can also waive Raul Neto if they want. So you can max it at about 17.5. The question is, can you find a Derrick Favors replacement for that cost? Maybe, maybe not. For now, I'll list Utah at that 17.5 figure. And finally, the Washington Wizards, $7.7 million. That's a little bit deceptive, though, because that's their absolute max if they renounce all of their cap holds. But the Wizards have a lot of cap holds. Jabari Parker, Trevor Ariza, Bobby Portis, Thomas Satoransky might be their starting point guard next year. Thomas Bryant was their starting center for a good portion of the year. So for the Wizards, if they keep one of those guys even, they don't have any more cap space. So that's deceptive there for Washington. I think they want to keep guys like Tomas and Bryant and maybe Bobby Portis too, who are RFAs. So I know it's 7.7 there for the Wizards, but they're not going to be players in free agency. It's even if they waive Jonathan Simmons. It's not going to go down. All right, folks, make sure you're subscribed to us here on YouTube. Hit that big button coming up because, hey, we're going to keep you updated all offseason long on all things NBA.